98.7 WMMS.
Cleveland.
Now it's time to give stuff away. Hey, it's time to give stuff away.
All right, I want a couple of tickets to the Animal Instinct Tour that is Bad Wolves from Los Angeles, California, co-headlining with Pop Evil from Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's going to go down Thursday night, November the 12th, a few weeks away, over at Temple Live at the Cleveland Masonic. Ticketmaster.com will have all of the pertinent details for you. So this pair goes to caller 10. Good luck. Have fun. Bad Wolves, Pop Evil. And you. 216-578-1007 or 800-348-1007.
Should you dance or should you not dance?
You can dance like no one's watching. He'll talk like no one's listening.
It's better that you don't.
Alan Cox.
On 100.7 WMMS.
Cuando se marea dolores, cuando se quema de amores, cuando se inmala su vela, cuando se inmala dolores, cuando se inmala dolores, cuando se quema de amores, cuando se inmala su vela, cuando se inmala su amores. Baila, 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 bailame, esta rumba, esta guitarra, que yo siempre cantaré.
Anybody ever get into the Gypsy Kings?
No.
No, just me? These guys were technically a French band, but they were a couple of Catalan families, so they sang in Spanish, but I don't know if they're still around, but love the Gypsy Kings. They were a big, big deal probably 25, 30 years ago. But it seems to me that that's a band that maybe you could put into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Somebody wrote a big, long think piece on, if rock and roll is a universal language, why are there no Spanish singing bands in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Fewer than 1% of the total inductees into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame have any Hispanic roots at all. Now, I think that the answer to this is largely self-evident, but it's still an interesting question. Why are there no Spanish-speaking, singing bands in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Now, the guy who wrote this article has been on some long crusade to get some band that I've never heard of into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Band from Argentina called Soda Stereo. And this guy is launching this multi-year campaign to get these guys in. But I mean, Carlos Santana is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right? Is Richie Valens in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Probably. I don't know. I don't know. But there's a good documentary over on Netflix. It's called Break It All, if it's a subject that interests you. And it's kind of about the history of rock and roll in Latin America, in the Spanish-speaking countries. And, you know, the Rock Hall, listen, there's a lot of ground to cover in bands that sing in English before we get to some other ones, you know. There are some very, very egregious absences over in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I'm sure that they don't mind over there that these arguments are constantly happening because that means people are talking about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But the people who have the complaints that they have about the lack of diversity in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, those are valid complaints. It's mostly white guys in there. And, you know, they have some women. They have, a lot of R&B acts. I mean, that's where your, black artists are going to get represented. But there aren't a lot of Hispanic or Latino artists in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now, again, I've never heard of Soda Stereo before. But this guy thinks that they should absolutely be in there. But it made me think of the Gypsy Kings. Hispanics are 20% of the U.S. population. And that's only going to go up. So, I don't know. Think about it. But first, we got to get in. Who do we have to get in first? First, we have to get
Metallica.
Metallica's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
U2.
I think U2 is in the Rock. Is U2 in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I think
Foo
they are.
Fighters.
Foo Fighters is in.
Oh, Rolling Stones.
Yeah, they've been in for a minute. Yep.
Man.
Next, you're going to say
everybody's
The Who.
in there then.
Uh-huh.
The Beatles?
U2 got into the Rock Hall in '05. Wow. They were inducted by Bruce Springsteen because Bono inducted Springsteen in 1999. So he was returning the favor.
How about your Fall Out Boys?
I love them.
What about the Fall Out Boys?
I don't think
in
they're
there.
eligible yet.
Not yet,
Doesn't it have
but
to be 35 years?
25 years.
Oh, then they're coming
You're
up
thinking
on
of
it.
President of the United
When did they
States.
form? Like the 2000s?
Like 99.
99, yeah, late 90s.
Yeah.
Locally, at least. I was driving my daughter to school this morning. She likes that kind of music, and there was a Fall Out Boy song on. And it's a good song. Listen, I think that those guys, when I hear them, I'll tap my toe. They're fine. But my thought is, and I haven't seen them live, Mary, they're your favorite band.
Mm-hmm.
They're such a heavily compressed and produced band. And they're not going to, they're really not going to replicate the tenor of those songs live.
They are very, very good live.
I'm not saying they're not good live. I'm saying that their songs are so heavily produced that I'm curious how that translates live. You know, there's some bands, what you hear is kind of what you get live. There's other people who don't care about that. They don't care about that transition from recorded to live. But it's like...
But nowadays you can make that sound in a live venue.
You can, but I'm not talking about effects on your microphone. I'm talking about like a heavily... Fall Out Boy is a very produced band.
Well,
and so...
I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about, but them live sounds like them recorded.
Them live sounds like them recorded.
Like their CD, like they
They
sound
sound very much
good
like
live.
their
Okay.
albums.
Like
yeah.
they sound almost identical to their album.
So that means that they're running a lot of effects then and things.
or
because
it's
it's
not
not-
as heavily produced as you think it is.
Well, I mean, I've been doing this a long, long time. I know what things sound like when they're very heavily produced and compressed, and that's what those songs sound like. Here, I'll play you what I heard this morning because I like the song. It's a good song, but this song, right?
This song,
My songs know what
this
you did in the dark.
song friggin' rips live. dude.
Okay,
Like,
but I'm just saying that it. I'm just saying, there's a lot of like,
that's
you
the
know,
part. They have pyros during that part.
yeah, because they want to distract you from the fact they're not hitting the notes. That's what I'm
That's
asking.
not
Like that.
true.
Oh,
I mean, it's
come
just not true.
on.
I probably have a live version of that song on my phone right now. Hold on, give me 2 seconds.
No, no,
When's
no.
the last
Listen,
time saw
I
it?
believe you. I'm just, I was thinking of that this morning as I was listening to that. I was like, I wonder what this sounds like live. Because I bet it don't sound like this.
Oh, no,
Pull
it's
up
And there's nothing
pull
wrong
up
with
a
that.
live version on YouTube.
There's
I'm
nothing
sure
wrong with
plenty.
it. I'm just saying that, you know, for most people, their exposure to a song is what is they hear the produced version.
All right.
Um,
Hold on, I'm at the concert. I've gotten there, but I don't know if I have that
Are
song.
you squealing through the whole thing?
yeah, with joy
Dance, dance.
and pain,
Hold on.
sunshine and rain.
It's just, I mean, I recorded like pretty much the whole friggin' album.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. So,
Is that
okay.
the live one?
Yes, that's the
Oh,
live
play
one.
it again. I was listening to my phone. What was wrong with it?
Yeah.
He's a chubby guy. I mean, he's probably.
Well, no, I don't. No, he's in way better shape than he was a long time ago. Once those guys blew up, he's like, oh, I got to lose some weight. This ain't gonna work anymore. I got girls that want to like,
I
you know,
found it.
take me backstage.
But you already
Yeah,
played
it's
one,
played,
so you
yeah.
don't have to hear it off my phone. But
No, it's a catchy song, man. It really is. But when you hear things where they're clearly like a lot of studio things going on, because obviously on the album you want it to sound good. You want it to sound big and thick and however you want it to sound.
are you saying the music sounds different or his voice sounds different?
Well, when they're like, I'm on fire, that's a
so
heavily
you're talking
produced.
about his voice.
Well, no, that's all of them. That is a produced choral effect that's going in. And my question was, are they replicating that on stage with the effect, or are they singing it as they're singing it there, in which they're not going to hit those notes in the same way? And it's the latter. There's nothing wrong with it. I was curious because I've never seen them live. I mean, when they were just coming up as a local band in Chicago, like they couldn't get arrested. So when they really blew up, everybody was like, oh, yeah, these guys are great. But it was like, people gave them a hard time locally. I think undeserved. That music was not my vibe, but I thought what they were doing was, I got why people dug them. I'm going to talk to Paul Reiser here in a little bit. I talked to him on Zoom this morning. He's got a film that he wrote and he directed called The Problem with People. And I forgot that he was in Stranger Things because a lot of people, I was talking to somebody about Paul Reiser being in Stranger Things, and they were like, oh, I bailed after like the second season. And he was in later seasons, I think, Paul Reiser.
I think he was in the second season.
Was he really in the second season? I remember Matthew Modine being in there kind of the whole way through, but I couldn't remember when Paul Reiser
When's that last
popped up.
season coming out?
Oh, my God. The last season should have been the last season. It was such a slog. And then they were like, we're going to do one more. I'm like, you're going to do one more?
I thought it was good.
Did you?
Uh-huh.
It took forever to just do a circle. I was like, oh, my God. The episodes were like an hour and 20 minutes. That's why I thought it was the last season. I thought it was the final season.
I thought it was good.
I only watched the first one.
Did you? The first season?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't watch all of it.
Kids are 30 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Their kids are going to get stuck in the upside down.
Yeah, man. Okay, well, let me get to Paul Reiser then.
More than 6 but fewer than 10 minutes with somebody on the phone.
I don't have to tell you who Paul Reiser is, obviously. He's been in a lot of films. I was mentioning this yesterday. He was one of the first comedians I can recall he and Jerry Seinfeld were putting out books that were selling a lot, back in the late 80s, early 90s. Last time he was in here, I pulled out an old copy of a comic relief cassette that he was on that I loved from the 80s. Hey, Paul.
Hello.
How are you, man?
I'm well. How you doing?
I rewatched Aliens the other night.
God bless you for that.
In every subsequent iteration of that franchise, I'm like, how is Burke the guy that they never were able to figure out how to do anything with? In those sci-fi franchises, they can freeze people and bring them back, and they can do whatever they want to do. They can do revisionist history however they want to do it.
We did put out recently a what if series of comic books, Marvel comic books. And the premise was, what if Burke had lived? And it was revised, talk about revisionist history. It was what I had always been joking for 35 years. It's like, Burke was not a bad guy. There was a reason that he even wanted to bring the alien back to. So if you read the comic books, you'll see I was actually a very good guy.
I love those. I grew up a comic book nerd, and I particularly loved that what if franchise. So this is the first I'm hearing of that. That's amazing.
Oh, really? Well, we got to get our publicity team on that because that's not fair. It's been out in fact, actually next week or in 2 weeks, they're releasing the book of all 5 comic books together. So you should check it out. And my son worked on that, and he wrote. He's sort of another comic book nerd, and he actually wrote some great stuff. So it was a thrill to actually have that come out and revise history in a good way.
Yeah, no, I love it. I'm going to grab whatever that compilation is. I'm going to tear through it.
Go at it.
So the movie here, this is something that you wrote, yes?
Yes. The movie is called The Problem with People, and it opens this Friday in theaters and on wherever you can buy and rent your movies. And this is a movie I had wanted to make for a long time. I've been working on this. And the original idea was, I just want to go to Ireland. That was as much as I had figured out. And so I had always wanted to make a movie there. So I came up with this story of why would my, diehard New York character have to go to Ireland. And the story we came up with, I wrote it with a buddy of mine, and the story is, these are 2 cousins. Colm Meaney is the Irish side of the family. I'm the American side of the family. And we never heard of each other, never met each other. We just know that our grandfathers had a fight, and they were brothers, and they fell apart, and they never spoke to each other. And all the generations afterwards grew up knowing, don't trust the other side. The Irish don't trust the Americans. The Americans don't trust the Irish. And, and then suddenly his father, who's like 90, said, all this conflict in the world, people fighting. Why are people fighting? We're all the same. Why? There's no reason for this conflict and division. Even our own family, And he gets the idea, before I die, I want you to find our American side of the family and settle this, make peace. And so that's the opening scene of the movie. Is I get a call from this cousin I've never heard of. He said, I think we're related, and let's put a stop to this. And I go to Ireland on his invitation to raise a glass in friendship. And we raise a glass and we embrace, and then it goes bad. Just because that's the problem with people, that we're just always going to find something to be a little bit suspicious and mistrusting about the other people. And like, why was he so nice? There must be a reason he was inviting me. And, so at the heart of the movie is this sort of big, not issue, but this big question of like, yeah, how do you solve world peace? What's the secret? And we took it to a very small scale. Like, what about two guys from one family? Can they get their act together? And the answer is not really. It's hard.
Well, that's the beauty of it too, is you're not dealing with problems that are so big that they seem unsolvable. The comedy and the drama comes from the minutia.
Yeah, exactly. And it's in all of us. And like, if you get right down to it, you put two people on an island, they're going to fight about something. And that's what happens here. But, and I tell people it is about something. It's about world peace and sheep. Those are the two issues. But it's really it's set in the beautiful countryside of Ireland, and the cast is all Irish, other than Jane Levy, who plays my daughter.
Who's great too.
Yeah, she's a fantastic actress. And everyone else, Colomini, and the cast is all Irish, and the crew is Irish. And it's a really fun, it goes down really easy. And what I've been really excited to see and gratified is that the few audiences that we screened it for, they were laughing at all the things they're supposed to laugh at. And they were moved by all the things. And they all left with this feeling of, yeah, you know what? I'm going to call my brother. I don't know why I haven't spoken to my brother, but I'm going to call my friend. We had this falling out. I went, well, that's fantastic. I couldn't really hope for that, but I did.
Well, you'd probably be hard pressed to find anyone who doesn't have some familial tension.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you often don't even know why.
Yeah.
I mean, you inherit these things, right? We get these things from our parents. Like, we don't talk to that other family. Why? I don't remember why, but don't trust them.
I mean, I'm Irish, and I've been to Dublin a couple of times over the past 10 years, and I've been fortunate to travel a lot of places around the world. And I don't think it's just because I have a heritage connection, but Ireland is just so goddamn beautiful that you're standing there and you're like, I want to go. Every time I think about a place I want to go back to that I visited before, it's always Ireland.
Yeah, it's so true. And I don't even have that that I'm aware of. I don't have that genetic connection. People say, well, what's your connection? And here's the only thing. Remember Angela's Ashes?
Yeah.
Right? So that was written by Frank McCourt. Frank McCourt was my 10th grade English teacher.
Okay.
and I said, that's the extent of my Irish family.
Yeah.
That's as far back
But what
as I
a
go.
connection.
Yeah, it's crazy. And actually, there was one point when Angela's Ashes was still on the charts, and my first book, Couple, came out, and I said, when has that ever happened? That the number 1 and number 2 books on the New York Times bestseller list were a guy and his high school teacher.
Right.
I don't think that's happened.
I was mentioning yesterday when I was talking about you were going to be on the show today, and I mentioned, Paul Reiser. I said between he and Seinfeld, those were really the first 2 comics that had huge books, and you did a series of them. I'm like, now everybody kind of does that, but back then that wasn't that common.
No. Yeah. It was. Jerry did the first one, and the same team that approached him came to me and said, "Do you want to do one?" And I said, "Oh, Jerry did it. I guess it's been done. It's possible." And then the couplehood and the babyhood and family. So I got to do a bunch of them, which were fun. But anyway, this movie, I got to say, so many times. It's been nice in the last few years. I've been invited to go play in other people's worlds, and Stranger Things and The Boys and Kominsky Method. And this movie, on the other hand, is something that I got to actually come up with and see, come to fruition. So now it's finally out, and it's like, I kind of can't believe it. Just like, I've been talking about this and wanting to do this for so long. And I got to say, we're all so thrilled with how it came out. It's like, yes, that's the movie we wanted to make. So I hope you get to see it, and I hope people go watch it, because it's funny and sweet and hopefully about something.
It's called The Problem with People. It's in theaters this weekend. Paul Reiser's in it. He wrote it. Before I let you go, I'm super bummed about Reboot going away. That's just from me to you.
You and me both.
Yeah. I loved it. Listen, I'm going to let you go, Paul. I always love talking to you. Good luck with the film, and I appreciate your time, pal.
Thank you so much. Always good to see you.
More than 6, but fewer than 10 minutes.